This is the Just Live podcast with Dan and Suzie Potter, episode 44.
This is the intentional connection number 3, power outage.
How can you intentionally connect without distraction?
We begin in 22 seconds.
Live life. See the good days in it. Just live. Live life. See the good days. See the good days. Follow your potential. And live life. See the good days in it. Thrive.
Your life is a remarkable story, an adventure that only you can create.
We exist to help you grow your unique connection.
So today in this Just Live podcast, this is episode number 44, we're talking about power outage as an option to intentionally connect with each other as a couple or with your friend or family group.
My name is Dan.
My name is Suzie. Together we are Doozy.
We want to take you back in time. Back when our boys were just younger.
Time.
We had a date night as a family, but also us together every single Friday night. And it had to do with a power outage. We took the time at 6 o'clock to shut off all the lights, to shut off all the electricity, no music that was playing outside, no movies, nothing.
Sometimes we made our own our own music with like a guitar or whatever.
And we put kerosene lamps around the house. We had about 8 to 10 of
We're
them.
showing a kerosene lamp right here, one of the ones that we used.
And we just did life unplugged. It was amazing.
Yeah, so Power Outage is a part of our In 30 Challenge. It's a free course that you can sign up for and get this download of 30 and a bonus list of 60 ideas. And this is number 3, Power Outage. And it says, enjoy an evening with no electricity. Start the shutoff after 6 p.m. or whenever you choose. And creatively plan your power outage like an evening in 1922 when only a few homes had power.
That's what it looks like. Now, I just want to remind you, 100 years ago, only 33% of the homes in America had electricity. If you were in rural America, only 3%. So they could have a date night every night. But we intentionally move back in time. You got to get back in time.
What a way to make a living.
Well, it's a way to have a great date or a great connection at least.
Yeah, so jump back to our family power outage time. It's Dan and I. In case you don't know, we have 2 sons, now adults, married. Joshua has children, so the family is expanding. But back in those days, we tried to be intentional in our relationships as well. And that was one of the ways that we did it. We always had people in our home. We always invited people in. So this was kind of like a family date night that we set aside for just the 4 of us. And I loved it because we took turns planning. When Josiah, for example, was much smaller and he couldn't plan his own on his own, one of us took turns with him. And many times his power outage night turned into sardines, hide and seek.
If you know what sardines is, it's the best game of hide and seek you could have.
Somebody goes to hide and we wait a while. It's always in the dark. For us anyways. And then the rest of us try to find whoever's been hiding one by one. When you find, you climb into the hiding space with the other. And Josiah loved that game. I don't know if he still does. We'll check in with him on it. But that was something that he always chose. Oftentimes we had kerosene or candles or a combination of it and played games. Our boys love games still to this day. And so they would pick a game like Risk, and it went all night, for example, or Monopoly.
In front of the fire. Now, here are some of the things you can do. Susie already mentioned candle. I mentioned the whole kerosene lantern. You can start a fire. You can go outside, and you can have a campfire. You can play games. You can read stories. We used to love being around the fireplace, and just in the flickering light, you would read a story. You'd read a book. There was times of telling story. There was time of making music yourself. Here's the key. It's when everything else is dimmed down, when everything else is darkened, there is a better focus on you and having a moment together where you can talk or walk or go outside and gawk at someone or old time, bring out some chalk. If you live by the sea, go for a walk on the dock, but don't use any electricity.
Okay, chalk, dock. mock. I love your little rhyming things. I was catching your cheekiness there.
You got that?
That was beautiful. It also reminds me.
I did that without any electricity. I just did it myself.
Your brain takes electricity, my man. So one thing that I really love that this reminds me of as well, we have iPhones and it's got a portrait mode. And I love portrait mode for a particular reason. You can zoom into whatever you want to focus on, and the rest of it is very out of focus. Back in the day when I used my SLR camera, I got a 50 millimeter lens, and that lens was a fixed lens that only had that distance. If I'm representing this right, sorry photographers, if it has a different definition, but it had a fixed lens. So I needed to move closer or farther to get my subject in the position. And it also had it was a beautiful lens for portraits, for people, because I could get their faces as the focal point, and the rest could fade away into bokeh and other really fun spaces. And I love that because I personally have a problem with focus often.
So what does that have to do with outage?
Well, power outage allows you to focus on the things, the people.
Got it.
The chosen activity or lack of activity that you have, and you put that as your focus, the connection.
And it's interesting when you just have a
Thanks
candle
for asking.
going on, you see the face of somebody else. You see maybe what they're wearing, but everything else, like the portrait mode or the f-stop or taking a shot in the dark, and all you get is like one leaf and everything else is gone. This is what happens in a power outage date or experience together, is that you tune everything out and you focus in on each other.
So here's your challenge for this podcast. As a result of this podcast, we'll just put it out here already. Try to reserve a time, either regularly or one-off, it's your choice, where you have a power outage. And you can determine what that looks like. You can determine whether that is something that you're going to do in your home, and you can define what time and at this time and that time. You might have to do some pre-planning. For example, make food, because usually we need some power. We need some power to make food. So you might want to prepare the food, and then when the food's ready, you have your power outage. You might also not want to do it at home. You might want to do it in a different location, as Dan said. At a campfire. When we go camping, we love to have no power times. We put on the campfire, we bring out the ukulele and bongos, we sing, we tell stories. Sometimes we do some kind of a craft or art piece, and we bring out things that take, usually without power, it takes a little bit more time to do, and it takes a little bit more personal energy to do, but also it has such a resting effect.
I just want to tell you that if you're afraid to shut off your phone for a night, the world will still exist. The news will still happen. You don't have to be plugged in all the time. Matter of fact, one of the greatest things you can do for your relationship is to unplug. And this is an experience of power outage where you choose to shut off the power and turn on the connection.
All right, so there you have it. Power outage is our recommended intentional connection challenge. Choose a date, choose a time, choose a location, choose what that's going to look like. One person can plan it, or you can dream together. We highly recommend this for couples, but families and friend groups can also do this. So have a power outage.
So may you live fully alive as you love your life, your world, and your God. My name is Dan.
My name is Suzie. Together we are Doozy.
Live fully.
And love fully, and have a power outage without distractions, if that is even possible for you.
Light it up.